In 1941, one of the most deadliest battleships of all time was launched. Now, the Royal Navy was tasked to destroy this battleship at all costs, otherwise Britain would starve. And this ship was famously known as Bismarck. The Battleship Bismarck wasn't made during World War II. It actually started production in 1935 and finished construction and was commissioned for launch in February of 1939, coincidentally on Valentine's Day. And as we all know, 7 months later, World War II begins. Now, Germany didn't adopt Bismarck into the German Kriegsmarine until they captured France. France fell in June. They adopted it in August of 1940. Now, when the Bismarck was released into the Denmark Strait, she was accompanied by the Prince Eugen, a cruiser class ship, and they were only sent on one operation, and one operation only, which was Operation Rheinenberg. I said that right. Yeah. Now, when Admiral Tovey, the one chiefed into destroying the Bismarck, Winston Churchill said to him 3 important words: sink the Bismarck. Because Churchill knew if the Bismarck got into the Atlantic Ocean, which it did, then it could destroy all supply ships to Britain before the supply ships even saw the Bismarck. Its effective range was about 8 miles, which is 13 kilometres. So, Admiral Tovey went out on the HMS Prince of Wales, and it was accompanied by the pride of the Royal Navy, HMS Hood. Now, they first encountered the Bismarck and Prince Eugen during the Battle of the Denmark Strait, at which time they sort of ran into some difficulties. Since it was at night time, all they could see was 2 silhouettes. They didn't know which was the Prince Eugen and which one was the Bismarck. So they initially targeted the front ship. Little did they know that they just targeted the Prince Eugen. Tovey knew his mistake and tried to correct it at the last second. It didn't work. The shells left the cannons and didn't make contact with Prince Eugen. They had just given away their position to the 2 most deadly ships in the German Kriegsmarine. All of a sudden, Bismarck and the Prince Eugen's guns light up. All of them miss the HMS Prince of Wales, but some of them hit the HMS Hood. Now, the Hood sadly does go down in the Battle of the Denmark Strait from the Bismarck. The pride of the Royal Navy has just sunk before Admiral Tovey's eyes. Admiral Tovey now knew that the Bismarck wasn't a light threat. So, he did whatever he could to survive, and the Bismarck and Prince Eugen escaped. Now, a couple weeks later, even a couple of days later, the British at Bletchley Park had cracked the Enigma code, and they were now using it to track down the Bismarck's location. Now, they were going through loads of encrypted letters, all from journals, letters to home, but one woman finds one word she recognises: Brest. She shoots her hand up and says she has something. The Bismarck was going to dock at Brest to repair. This was it. They knew where the Bismarck was going, and Admiral Tovey had been going towards Norway when the Bismarck had been going towards France all this time. So, Tovey turns around and heads to France. One last swordfish mission to try and sink the Bismarck. Many swordfish fly out to the Bismarck. Very few actually drop their torpedoes, and even then very few make a contact. When they arrive back to their aircraft carrier, they think, oh, we failed, the Bismarck's going to dock, it's going to resupply, we're all doomed. But actually, they had succeeded, because the Bismarck had started an evasive turn while the torpedoes were being dropped. But they noticed that it never came out of that evasive turn, and that was because the Swordfish had taken out its rudder. This then sent alarm bells ringing. The Royal Navy had to get to the Bismarck and destroy it. Now, many of the Royal Navy's guns couldn't penetrate the Bismarck's stick high, but the Bismarck, with its three 15-inch guns, could penetrate any ship on the water. So, the Bismarck stuck dead in the Atlantic, and 4 Royal Navy ships come in, accompanied by Admiral Tovey in the Prince of Wales and the HMS Rodney. And all at once, they start to open fire on the Bismarck, circling around her like a pack of sharks, constantly firing her for nearly 100 minutes before Bismarck goes down. Now, they saw Kriegsmarine sailors swimming out of the Bismarck, and they think, we should help them, they're now prisoners of war. But oil was flooded, oil was spreading, and if something happened, that would have gone up in flames. 3 Kriegsmarine survived. And that is the almighty tale of the Bismarck. After that, Hitler realised that he couldn't devote resources to the Navy as it would draw it away from the upcoming Operation Barbarossa, which I covered in the last video. So, he now saw his Navy as a defence weapon for the north of Germany and for his colonies. So, that has been the Battleship Bismarck. I keep accidentally turning the camera, I am sorry. Let me know what you think of the Battleship Bismarck in the comments below. Do you think it was one of the greatest ships ever made, or do you think it was one of the worst ships ever made because it was German? Let me know in the comments. And on Sunday I will be doing Pearl Harbor, but next time you see a video on my channel, it will be about the famous M1 Garand.